Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. On July 4th, 2026, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence. At this time, I would like to read for you the declaration of Rebecca Boone in support of the motion to be heard and to unseal records in Idaho versus Kohberger, which was filed in July of 2025 and denied by Judge Stephen J. Hippler. Idaho versus Kohberger remains highly sealed to the public today, nearly a year later. It reads as follows, page 2. I, Rebecca Boone, declare and state as follows. I am the supervisory correspondent for Idaho for the Associated Press. As such, I have personal knowledge of the facts and statements contained in this declaration. 2. I have 26 years of journalism industry experience, much of that time spent covering the judicial branch and criminal justice issues. 3. I have reported on the November 13th, 2022, unalivings of the 4 University of Idaho students and the subsequent criminal investigation in the arrest and prosecution of Brian Kohberger. I graduated from the University of Idaho with a bachelor's degree in journalism in 1999, and I covered the courts and law enforcement beat for the Lewiston Tribune before I joined the AP in 2002 as a reporter in the Boise Bureau. In 2013, I was promoted to my current position of supervisory correspondent, tasked with leading AP's news coverage in Idaho. I have extensive experience covering criminal and civil litigation in state and federal courts. I was an Idaho Press Club board member from 2014 until 2023 when I stepped down due to time constraints. I am a longtime advisory board member of the University of Idaho School of Journalism and Mass Media. I became a Loyola Law School Journalism Law School Fellow in 2012. I also regularly serve as a panelist for training programs offered to teachers and journalists through a partnership between the University of Idaho College of Law, the Idaho Supreme Court, and the U.S. District Court of Idaho. I co-wrote and presented a continuing legal education. During those panels, I typically train attendees on subjects including news literacy, how to access court documents, the ethics of covering the courts, how to interpret the rule of law into press coverage, and why press access to the judicial branch is vital for an informed citizenry. Paragraph 6. High-profile criminal cases present unique challenges and unique opportunities. The court has taken extensive and careful efforts to maintain Mr. Kohberger's right to a full and fair trial. Now that Mr. Kohberger has reached a plea deal with the state and has pleaded guilty, those fair trial concerns are resolved, and the court should unseal court documents and increase transparency in this case. 7. We understand that the court must balance the Sixth Amendment rights of the accused with the First Amendment issues of the media, which serves as the proxy for the public. We do not seek extraordinary access now. Rather, it is our hope that the court will simply reweigh its balancing of the Sixth Amendment and First Amendment rights now that Mr. Kohberger has pleaded guilty. And then under Roman numeral 1, and this is page 3, court records should be unsealed at the earliest opportunity. Paragraph 8. Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32 opens with a policy statement, quote, the public has a right to access the Judicial Department's Declaration of Law and Public Policy, and to access the records of all proceedings open to the public. End of quote. That statement as a guiding star when weighing whether court documents should remain sealed in the weeks ahead, particularly once a jury is seated and the trial is set to begin. While not every court document in this case is included on the Idaho Supreme Court Cases of Interest website, and then the link is given here, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the top of page number 4. Last accessed July 11th, 2025. An examination of the documents listed allows us to get a sense of the overall level of secrecy imposed by the court in this case. Paragraph 9. On June 26th, I counted each order listed in the online case file and then counted each order to seal. I did not include stipulations to seal or motions to seal in my assessment, nor did I include orders to redact rather than seal. Since this case began in 2022, there have been 465 orders issued by the court. More than half of them, approximately 246 in all, are orders to seal. 6 are orders to unseal. 10. When the proceedings were being held in Latah County, the bulk of the sealing occurred at the beginning of the case and was mostly limited to material that had been returned from search warrants to internet and phone providers, banks, and the like. 11. The majority of orders to seal have been issued since the case was moved to Ada County. It is perhaps worth noting that the number of sealed records in this case has skyrocketed in 2025. Of 168 total orders issued by this court since January 1st, 2025, more than 2/3 of them, 103 in total, have been orders sealing documents from public view. Without being able to view the records, I can only speculate as to why that may be. Perhaps it is because the case was getting closer to trial. Perhaps it is because of the amendments to the Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32 that took effect this year, lifting the requirement for a hearing before records may be sealed. Perhaps it is simply an anomaly. Regardless, there are more sealed records in this case than I can recall in any case I've covered for the AP over the last 23 years. Paragraph 12. A substantial portion of the evidence, arguments, and rulings in this case have been delivered in the form of written documents rather than in open court. Arguments and rulings in this case have been, and continuing on to page number 5, a part of the court's process as anything that happens inside the physical courtroom, and as such should be open to the public. 13. Many of the sealed documents have been kept secret in order to ensure a fair and impartial jury so that the defendant can receive his constitutional right to a fair trial. Now that a jury will not be impaneled, the court should unseal the documents and honor Idaho's constitutional promise of open courts. Roman numeral 2. Court practices set informal precedent, and a culture of secrecy should not be the norm for Idaho. Paragraph 14. In court systems as small as Idaho's, practices in one courtroom can easily set the culture for other courtrooms. That's why it is crucial that transparency and access are scrupulously maintained in every case, but especially in high-profile cases. 15. There is no longer any risk of tainting a jury pool in this case. Mr. Kohberger has reached a plea deal with the state and has pleaded guilty in exchange for consecutive life sentences. He has waived his right to a fair trial. I respectfully urge the court to reweigh the balance of the First Amendment right of the press and the public against the concerns that led to the increased secrecy in this case, and suggest that a reweighing will likely lead to unsealed court documents. I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of Idaho that the foregoing is true and correct. Dated July 14th, 2025. Signed, Rebecca Boone. And again, this is the declaration of Rebecca Boone in support of the media's motion to be heard and to unseal records denied by Judge Stephen J. Hippler in July of 2025. Thank you for joining us here today.